Hello, hello. How y'all doing? Welcome to the channel. This is actually the first video in the channel. And it's not my first channel I've made. I have a couple other channels I use for different things, but I thought it would be time for me to do a channel in regards to, helping Mexicans be able to get their Mexican citizenship and go all the way through the whole process of even getting utilities, getting uh, buying land, buying property, establishing residency, getting a car, title work, like everything. And this all comes from experience. I do have to say though, um, I'm not an attorney. This isn't legal advice. Everything I say here is for informational, educational purposes only. Please do your own research, and I'm gonna just tell you how I got to where I'm at and what I got going on. And hopefully more of you can see this as helpful for to my Mexican brothers and sisters, and y'all can also get your citizenship and be able to get property and um, you know get get things going for you in Mexico. So yeah, I am a dual citizen of the United States and Mexico, which is a perfectly legal thing. There's several countries in which you can do dual citizenship. Both of my parents were born in Mexico. However, need to have one parent born in Mexico in order for you to be get your Mexican citizenship. So, just real quick, um, I do have two passports, Mexican passport and a U.S. passport, which is perfectly legal, perfectly fine. Um, I also have a Mexican driver's license, and yeah, and I got some properties in Mexico, and because I'm kind of close to a border town, and I have children in the United States, so I wanted to be close to my kids and also not have to travel so far. So where I've established my Mexican footprint is in Puerto Peñasco, which some of you all know as Rocky Point. It is a tourist town, and I'm not really a fan of like touristy places. But luckily, my properties are not amongst the tourist areas because that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be amongst tourist areas, but what I did want to be is close to the beach, which I am. Having one property 9 minutes away from the beach by vehicle and having another property basically a couple minutes away by the beach by foot. Yeah, so I have a property um, basically beach side. You could see the beach and the water from my property, and you can walk to it in like just a couple minutes. And I have electricity I pay for, water that I pay for, internet that I pay for at one of the properties, and just basically fully established. Just waiting until certain things are paid off, and I can make the permanent move maybe in like 10 years. To be in Mexico full time, and yeah. But anyways, this is about you getting your dual citizenship. So just a quick background, quick history. I started working on the process. Actually, unfortunately, after my mother passed away back in 2014. Um, yeah, and I knew I wanted to live in Mexico. I knew I wanted to, you know, establish my citizenship over there and do all that. But I didn't get the process started until after she passed away. So some of you might run into a situation, for instance, where you have someone that has passed away. And so what's great about my scenario that I can help some of you with is that I went through, I guess, a rare scenario. So both of my parents haven't been born in Mexico, but my mother had passed away, right? I didn't have access to her birth certificate and her paperwork. My mom passed away in the United States, but she was born in Mexico. All right. So here's how I went about it. So first of all, to get everything started, as you can see here, you gather your documents, and it says right there what you'll need: an original birth certificate for yourself and both your parents, and 2 copies each. They're not playing about that. All right. You need the long version birth certificate, information about your parents, and if they're deceased, you'll need the death certificate as well, which is what I needed to get. A valid photo ID for yourself and both parents, and 2 copies each. They don't play around with this. It's mandatory. If your parents are married before you were born, bring your original marriage certificate and 2 copies. I did obtain the marriage certificate. I don't remember if they really asked me for it, to be honest with you, but I did obtain it. All this takes is a little research on your part. It's fine. It took me 6 months to gather everything from scratch. I helped my sister get her Mexican citizenship, and since I already had the paperwork, we got hers done in less than an hour. So it took me 6 months. It took my sister 1 hour. So because I had all the paperwork, I was the first one to do it, and now I have an older sister trying to get her Mexican citizenship as well. And long story short, we have different dads, my oldest sister and myself, but still, mother born in Mexico. So I'm gonna help her out with her process. I help my other sister out. She's a dual citizen. I've been a dual citizen now for about 8, 9 years or so, and so I did all of this right here. So. Um, in the event of, okay, my mother had passed away, right? She passed away in the United States, but she was born in Mexico. I didn't have her Mexican birth certificate. What I did know was her date of birth, of course, and the place in which she was born. What I did was I called the Registro Civil. It's basically kind of like vital statistics, but of Mexico. And each state has one in Mexico, right? So Mexico has states. Sonora is a state. Jalisco is a state. It has different states. And so I called the state in which my mom was born, and I told them, like, hey, I told her her full name, which was her born name, her unmarried name. And I'm like, I'm her son. This is who I am. And I told them that I need her birth certificate. Now, the thing with Mexico is they've made huge technological advancements. However, the birth certificates from people from a long time ago, they still keep in paper form, like in file cabinets and such. And they don't upload them into their system unless someone calls and asks them to do it. So that's what they needed to do. So they did that process actually, and they uploaded my mom's birth certificate into the system because it wasn't before. And they actually mailed it to me in the United States. So I told them, like, well, I'm in the United States. Can you mail it to me? They're like, sure. And they mailed it to me all the way from Chihuahua. So you got to know some Spanish because you're going to talk to the Registro Civil in the state. Ask them about obtaining the acta de nacimiento, and uh, you give them the information, that of the parent. If they don't have it, or they're deceased and you don't know what their paperwork is, whatever it may be. And and they were actually able to mail it to me. They're going to need to verify some information with you since it was so long ago. To be honest with you, I don't remember if I emailed them like a copy of my ID and my original birth certificate, in which case, I just did it all through email. I never mailed them my ID. I never mailed them my birth certificate, nothing like that. It was done over the phone. And from what I believe, because it's been so long now, I mean, they have technological advancements. They have emails. They're like, hey, email it to me. So, I sent them my birth certificate, so they know, like, hey, this is my mom. You know, and they responded in kind and sent it to me. From what I recall, I think there's a fee, because I know when I obtained my dad's paperwork, anytime you obtain anything now, there's a fee, but it's only like a few dollars, which you pay in pesos, right? So they mailed to me my mother's birth certificate, and I had Mexican birth certificate, and had my mom's name and her date of birth and her place of birth and all the information necessary for a birth certificate. Done. Got it taken care of. All right, my dad. At that point in time, my dad was still alive. He sent me his birth certificate and he sent me his ID. Well, not his official ID, but he took a picture of his ID and sent it to me. So, what I ended up doing, because I went to the Mexican consulate multiple times, and they saw that I was going there all the time. They just kind of helped me out and accepted. Um, Now I don't know if they're allowed to do this or not, but like I took a color copy of my dad's ID, and cut it into like a little license form, and they were able to accept that, and then I made two copies of it, because my dad wasn't there, didn't go to the appointment with me, but he did send me his ID and his birth certificate. So, my dad was born in Mexico as well, so that was easy. He was alive. He sent it to me, But like, had my dad passed away, at that time, I would have done the same thing. Call the state in which he was born at, had them send me the birth certificate. Done. You know. Now, since my mother passed away, but she passed away in the United States, what ended up happening is my mother had a nickname, and the nickname, my oldest sister ended up telling the mortuary that this is her name, right? The nickname. They put my mother's nickname on the death certificate. But because that's not her birth name, I had to contact vital statistics to tell them to correct the death certificate. And because I wasn't the person that reported the death to the mortuary, it was my oldest sister. It was just a simple mistake, right? What I had to do is I had to send a certified letter to my oldest sister's house, addressing the change to the death certificate. And if she basically doesn't respond back, then that means she accepts the change, right? And and so I went through that process. Vital statistics accepted the change and changed my mom's death certificate to her birth name. Okay, done. But then I had to get it legally translated. So um, I got her death certificate, and then I got it legally translated, and um, and then with that, having the death certificate of my mom, her birth certificate, the marriage certificate between my mom and my dad's birth certificate, and his license. Finally, I was ready to do everything. Finally, had all the paperwork that I needed, and so I made the appointment. Um, at that point in time, it was before COVID, and I needed to have two witnesses. But the consulate, they helped me out, and two of their agents there actually signed as witnesses for me. So once I had all the paperwork, everything that you see here, right? I went through this whole entire thing, and I also filled out the when you contact the registro civil, like it gives all the information here. So um, what I'll do is I'll put these links in the video at the bottom for you guys to take a look through, and start your process, get it done, you know. um, and so finally, when I had all the paperwork, I went to the Mexican consulate. I filled out the application. I did everything that was needed and necessary, and within an hour, they gave me a Mexican birth certificate. Even though I was born in the United States, they gave me a Mexican birth certificate recognizing my citizenship as a Mexican citizen born abroad. Right. One thing you have to keep in mind, they put both names on your Mexican name, both the last names on your Mexican name, which I think is great. Which I think is great that I have my mother's last name, because I had my father's last name all my life. So, um, and that's when, at that point in time, once I had the birth certificate, they're like, "All right, do you want to get a passport?" Sure. Cost me like 110 bucks, something like that. 10-year passport. I got it the next day. That is how awesome it works. I got a passport in a day. This right here, in one day. I got my birth certificate within the hour, my passport the next day, and then what took the longest was the INE. The INE, if you're familiar with it, is the credencial, kind of like a federal ID, almost like a social security card in a way. That's what took me 2 years, and that's what they mailed to me from Mexico City, and they mailed it to me in the United States. All you have to do is basically call the number, and you request the INE. You give them your information, and yeah, and it took them 2 years for whatever reason. But the thing is, I got it. But it's as as a INE del extranjero, which means that you're a foreign Mexican citizen, right? But now that all my paperwork is done, and and I have property in Mexico and all that, and so now I have an INE as actual citizen and resident. So um, that's where we'll go ahead and end this for right now, because the first video and there's a lot to get through. I can eventually walk through the whole process of buying a vehicle, getting it registered, getting your Mexican driver's license, getting utilities, getting a phone line, getting internet, opening a water account, buying property, all of that. I went through the whole thing. So anyways, so this is yeah. So do your research, um, get your dual citizenship, and I guess I'll see you in the next video.